This video will give you some more efficient alternate picking exercises for guitar. Most lessons on getting a better right hand technique only focus on repeating patterns and exercises that are easy to speed up. Of course, you need to build that, but one thing that's left out is flexibility, and you kind of need that for most kinds of interesting music. It's not enough to just be fast and robotic. My name is Larsen, learn jazz, make music. When you're developing techniques and you're trying to figure out how to be more precise or improve something in your playing, then often the only measure is speed. But this can also become a way to fool yourself into doing exercises that are not really helping you solve the problem, simply because you can do an exercise where it feels like you're getting better and you can see that you're getting faster every week playing some pattern or scale position. Of course, it makes sense to spend some time working on stuff like that, and it does help you play patterns faster. But when you're playing solos, then the melodies might be more like this. And here you're not really using those easy patterns, and your right hand has to solve much more complicated problem. This is where flexibility becomes a much more important part of your skill set, and where you need to practice some different things to be able to play like this fast and clean, even if it is not as fast as some of the easy repetitive scale patterns on 3-note per string positions and stuff like that. Just a quick sidestep here, because I'm not knocking 3 notes per string. That's a system that I actually use myself, and that works just fine. It's really about what you practice and what you're focusing on when you're using that system. It's not the system itself. There are many ways to work on becoming more flexible and able to play more complicated picking patterns. Playing classical compositions of different kinds and exercises are very useful, and you can get into Bach or Kreutzer etudes and use those as technical puzzles to improve your right hand technique. Another option is to work on taking melodies or structures through scale positions. Scale positions just naturally will often make sure to make life really difficult for your right hand and force you to solve some problems in that way. This type of exercise can be as simple as just playing a scale in thirds. And you can add the diatonic triads as well. Remember that you can easily go back in the video and check the exercises if you want to hear what they sound like, or if you want to check out how I play them. This material is very basic, but it's also much closer to what you want to use in your solos, unless you play that genre. And you can keep it simple with diatonic thirds and triads, but you can go as far as you want, checking out chordal harmony and drop 2 voices in position. The goal here is to play the exercises cleanly and with good phrasing. Since these exercises are less systematic and predictable, they're more difficult, and you probably can't play them as fast, but you're working on helping your right hand being able to deal with the type of melodies that you want to play in your jazz solos. And in fact, you're also just practicing to play the kind of things that you are using in your solos, like arpeggios and triads and chordal arpeggios. Let's look at some other exercises that will really open up your playing. Instead of putting the focus on things that are really easy to play, then it makes sense to work on the things that are actually difficult. And for alternate picking, the easy part is to play more notes on one string. Changing strings is a bit more annoying, but you can make some exercises that work really well for training that. Here I'm playing 1 note per string, so playing this with alternate picking is forcing you to work on that aspect, and that is much more difficult. You can also do this with other arpeggios, but the drop 2 voicings are very nice for dramatic lines like this one. When you start practicing this and think it's really difficult, but you also feel like, oh, this is actually working, I'm getting better, then there are 2 things you should try. Check out how amazing bluegrass guys are, like Tony Rice. And then try to play the whole thing backwards. Now we can start looking at some of the really annoying exercises. With the previous exercise, then you were working on moving from string to string with alternate picking. And a good next step for this would be to work on this, but also skipping some strings. Now you can do this with spread triads really well, and this is something that I kind of picked up from watching this Pat Metheny video. if you want to see someone play some very dry technical stuff and get it to sound like beautiful music, then go watch that video. Pat Metheny is definitely another level. In this video I have 2 exercises with spread triads, one that's difficult and then one that's really a lot more difficult. When you practice these, then make sure that you don't play too soft. I've seen this with students, and I also experienced this for myself, that it really works better if you have a nice, clear and fairly hard attack on the note, so that if you're not precise, then you really mess it up. In the previous exercise there was a lot of string skipping and a lot of one note per string, and that makes it difficult, but it's also really building that precision and that flexibility to move around freely when you're soloing. And you can make it even more tricky by not always having the string skip in the same place. One thing is of course to learn all these exercises, but if you check out this video, then you can also see how many of them are actually just things that you use in your solos, and I'll show you how you can use them. And in that way you're getting a lot more out of what you're practicing, because it's not just about technique, it's also about getting it into your solos and playing better lines.